And we're actually seeing smart home also be a tool that can help retention. Once people are in and they get the comfort and convenience, some of the savings, right? When you're in a home with a smart thermostat, that thermostat's now helping the tenant to save some money on their utility bills every month. There's a reason they want to stay there.
Welcome to the Rental Property Owner and Real Estate Investor Podcast, brought to you by the Rental Property Owner Association, providing benefits and services to real estate investors and rental property owners for over 48 years. With your host, Brian Hamrick from Hamrick Investment Group.
This episode is sponsored by Green Property Management, managing everything from single-family homes to apartment complexes in the West Michigan area. Find out more at greenpropertymgt.com. And Icon Realty Group, helping home buyers, sellers, and investors in the West Michigan area. Find out more at theiconrealtygroup.com. Hello and welcome to episode 98. There's no doubt that technology is changing the way that we own and manage rental property, whether it's online tools like management software and tenant screening, or smart home technology that can cut down on our utility bills and control access to the property. And that's what we're going to be talking about today, smart home technology that's revolutionizing the way that investors and rental property owners do business. And here to have that conversation with us is Sean Miller, the president of Point Central, the leading developer of enterprise-scale smart home solutions for short and long-term property managers and their tenants. Sean, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Brian. Pleasure to be here.
This is a fascinating topic because I'm always amazed at how technology has just advanced to this level where it's doing things that we would never have imagined possible 10 years ago.
It is. It's definitely an exciting time.
I want to kind of start with that concept of smart home technology because a lot of people in their mind think, well, that just means having Amazon Alexa turn my lights on and off for me. Can you give us a little bit more detail and background on what smart home technology actually is?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So at Point Central, actually, we're thinking about the base would be what we call home automation technology. And that is really, devices in the home that used to not be connected to the internet, now being connected. And with that connection, being able to enhance what they do and how they do it. So think of things like connected light switches, connected wall plugs, connected thermostats, cameras, et cetera. All these devices that can now be in a home and independently or as a group work together to help provide a benefit to a homeowner or a property manager.
The smart home technology is not just limited to the idea of being able to turn these things on and off or turn the temperature up or down. There's analytics involved in that as well.
Yeah, that's correct. So actually, Point Central uses the term smart a little bit more differently because home automation is the device and the basic software that allows for connectivity and basic control. Smarts are something that we see people using liberally and interchangeably, but we don't see them as necessarily the same thing. While a connected device is part of home automation, that doesn't necessarily make it smart. What truly makes things smart is the ability to understand usage patterns, analyze those patterns to spot trends or things that are data points that are useful, and then bringing those data points back to the property manager or homeowner or tenant in a way that's useful for them to act upon. So for example, Point Central's been rolling out a service with our thermostats where we have, with our parent company, Alarm.com, we collectively have 5 million homes in the U.S. running our platform. And by running that platform, we're able to look at a city such as Phoenix in the summertime and say, look, I've got 20,000 homes running our platform with our thermostat, so I know generally how they behave in the summertime. And I know it takes on average 2 hours for a home to cool 4 degrees. If suddenly we notice a rental property takes 6 hours to cool 4 degrees, we can flag that to the property manager early enough on in the process to say, look, the good news is we caught this, what looks to be a problem. We think we've identified it. We're letting you know because now you can get out there to service the unit. It could be a simple service. It could be something a little more advanced. But either way, you're catching that service opportunity much earlier in the pipeline when you have the ability to take care of it at a lower cost point versus, waiting months until the HVAC unit fails. And then you have an angry tenant calling on a Saturday when it's 102 in their house and the air conditioning isn't working. And that's what we really think makes smart home automation.
So it sounds like true smart home automation takes the data and it can identify and locate anomalies in that data, which might point to problems that could lead to bigger expenses later on.
Exactly. And one of the things about smarts that makes PointCentral and Alarm.com uniquely positioned to deliver those is to be smart, you have to have enough data points to analyze them and test your analysis against to make sure you're truly providing useful data. And again, with the scale we have, we're able to do that with our customers.
Let's talk about how this applies to rental property owners and real estate investors. Can you give us some examples of how we would take advantage of these technologies?
Yeah. Before I dive into how we take advantage of it, let me start with also another differentiation. So if home automation is used as a general trend, there's also a difference between a DIY home automation product, so something an individual homeowner may put in their home, and a business home automation tool, or what we at PointCentral call enterprise scale home automation. And when you're designing home automation for a property manager to be used as an enterprise tool, there's a couple things we had to think about and design into the system. One was the overall performance and usability. So the system has to be something where a property manager can log in, one person can see from 10 properties they manage up over 50,000. The system allows simple user interfaces that allows a property manager to be efficient. The second thing is reliability. So again, a DIY home automation typically is based on a home's Ethernet or Wi-Fi. If you look at some of the data out there, home Ethernet or Wi-Fi today is still unrealistic. Something like Cisco said, 40% of homes still have an outage of at least an hour a month. And while we're streaming Netflix, those occasional drops that pixelate the screen are fine. Again, at an enterprise scale, if you're relying on a home automation system to run a thermostat or push access codes to a lock, you want to make sure that pathway's reliable. We use a cellular connection to do that. We have private lines with both AT&T and Verizon to make sure that whether broadband internet is available in a home or not, or it just has problems, never will interfere with the reliability of our system. And then last, one of the things that really makes it an enterprise tool is the security of the system. This has become a bigger topic over the last couple of months with some data breaches and et cetera. But PointCentral, we encrypt our data from device to our cellular hub, and then from our hub to our cloud, and then our cloud's hardened, and then we protect all the personally identifiable information there to make sure that the property manager is using this as a tool, doesn't have to worry about what we're doing with their data, or if someone can necessarily hack in to steal that data or manipulate the system. So with all that being said, is sort of what makes the baseline of the enterprise. Generally, the use cases that property managers see with us that are useful are access control. So replacing a deadbolt with one of our deadbolts that allows for things like unattended showings. So if you're showing a single family home and you want people to be able to get in, get out sort of at their own freedom, which is something that we've been seeing people who deal with a lot of millennial renters. Millennials tend to like to have that, or are indicating that sometimes they like to just go into a house on their own, sort of view it at their own pace without necessarily what could be perceived as the pressure of a salesperson there. We have customers who use the Access Solutions to provide unattended showings. They get full event history back, and they can control when the codes are allowed to enter. But that's a useful tool. Also, when a property is unoccupied, they can use the Access tool to let service workers in to clean the carpets, paint the walls, and again, have full control over when those codes are valid and know when people entered and left the property.
I have to tell you a story that I just had a conversation yesterday, and I knew that we were going to be having this conversation today, but I was talking to an investor who owns a number of properties here in Grand Rapids. He and his wife manage the properties themselves. One of his big headaches is the cleaning service that he hires to come in between turns, and he'll show up to let them in to the property. If they're running late, he'll just end up doing half the cleaning himself before they even get there. And I said, well, wouldn't it be great if you just had like some sort of smart home technology that would let the cleaning service in and then lock up after them and change the code so that the unit remains safe and secure?
That's exactly what we see. A lot of people, house cleaning and basic work order management is definitely a big tool, both in an unoccupied and occupied home. Some people allow for services to come in or repair something when the tenant's there, and our solution allows them to do that. And again, at an enterprise level, they just have to set it once. So when they set up that cleaner as an approved vendor in the system, and that access code is created, the lock knows that access code is only valid, say, on Tuesdays from 8 to 10, or when the owner says, nope, the property's vacant, they're going to go do a turn next week on Wednesday at noon. So the system's smart enough to know all of that.
Tell me about the clients that you have, the rental property owners or property managers that you are working with, and what their response is to this type of technology and some of the specific stories that you're hearing from them.
Typically, again, the good news is at an end consumer level, awareness and adoption of smart home is growing, which has driven a lot of conversations when people learn that there's a enterprise scale solution available. They come in and typically have questions of some of the things I talked about before of how we're architected to deliver something safe and reliable. Once they move past that, then it's what does this do for me? So access is one, HVAC, thermostat control that essentially sets the thermostat, gives obviously a tenant when they're renting it full control, but when it's unoccupied will help maintain a more economical temperature. Even if someone comes in and tries to change it, the thermostat will reset itself. Property managers see typically a 10 to 15% reduction in their energy bills with that type of service. At water solution, so we have the ability to put water leak sensors, water flow meters, water shutoff valves, depending on sort of the property and what the property manager thinks is a higher risk. There's very effective solutions to go in and try and help get ahead of problems. And then there's a whole another layer of myriad of solutions from cameras to door contact sensors, et cetera, that we can work with a property manager to understand their properties, how they run their business, and then recommend services that can be added on or solutions that can be added on to our basic service that allow them to manage all these things. And at the end of the day, our property managers see a pretty good return on investment. For someone who does what we call just our core package, which is the cellular hub, front door lock, and a thermostat, they typically see an ROI of north of 25%. And we have some people that have seen staggering ROIs because, again, things like a water sensor that costs $40 and helps prevent $3,000 worth of water damage just blows the numbers off the charts. But that's what property managers are looking for from an enterprise tool, is something that helps them do their job better and easier.
So let's talk about that ROI, the return on investment. What I understand from what you're saying is that those managers or property owners who choose to install this technology are seeing a return on investment of up to 25% a year?
Yeah, definitely. I would say they're seeing a minimum of 25% at that core package. And what's driving that 25% of the core package is the energy savings the thermostat provides. When you think of the access control, you can think of time saved, like the example you gave of the gentleman who's waiting there for a house cleaner, but also you get to remove the problems of keys. So you're no longer worried about our keys disappearing and being used maybe for purposes that are less than honest, or when a tenant moves and you have to rekey a lock, there's a cost to do that. There's a cost usually to store and manage the keys, especially if you're in a larger property management where you may have an official system that sort of is like a safe that can hold these and check them in and out. So that access solution helps remove all those costs, because now entry is being granted just based on access codes. And while there's still an option for a key, you can also just not use them. So it helps remove that cost.
Rekeying locks and just putting in new deadbolts and locks, it costs a huge amount every year. I can see how just the savings on that alone might be worth it.
Yeah, and those are the core parts that really, again, people, when they see that, they know those pain points today, they see an opportunity. That's usually how they can start in. And then once they get comfortable with the system, again, we have other products they're able to add on and just sort of grow as their sort of needs dictate.
What are some of those products that you would add on?
Some of the things, like I mentioned before, with the water sensor or water control features. Another one that we're seeing added is, again, the video doorbells or driveway cameras. For example, someone who wants to, if someone had short-term vacation rentals, the driveway camera we've seen become really useful, because they can both, when a property is rented, maybe the rental contract said, you're allowed to have 8 people, which means up to 3 cars. And suddenly the camera can, they can just quickly check the driveway, which is a public space, and see that there's suddenly 6 cars in the driveway, right? That may lead a quick call from the property manager to the renter just to say, hey, just want to make sure everything's being used according to how we discussed. The driveway cameras also allow those short-term renters to keep an eye on properties when they're unoccupied, which is a value to their homeowner, to say, you know what, you don't have to worry about it. We'll know if a car was to park in the driveway, the camera's going to see that. It's going to send me a notification. It's going to collect a video clip, and the property manager can see all that and take action if they need to all without having to worry the homeowner.
I'd like to take a moment to tell you about Green Property Management. Not only do they manage everything from single-family homes to apartment complexes in the West Michigan area, they also manage my entire portfolio. So I can tell you from personal experience that their unique flat fee management style is worth a closer look. If you feel that your property isn't operating to its fullest potential, then Green Property Management can help you take a holistic approach that will save you money, eliminate your headaches, and increase your net income. And if you're a property manager interested in applying Green Property Management's model, give them a call at 1-866-95-GREEN or visit them on the web at greenpropertymgt.com. What about the larger multifamily and apartment owner? How does this work for them?
So the good news is the core system works whether we're talking about single family homes or multifamily homes in short-term or long-term rental. We have customers across all four of those quadrants today. Again, the sort of hardware we may use or the way we set up the process or the service to trigger certain notifications or who they go to is a little bit unique, but we have deployed it across all of those. And one thing I guess I'm forgetting to mention, because again, we were designed more as a business tool first, but it's important to remember that there's also the tenant or the guest in this situation. And the good news is we have all the ways for also the tenant and the guest to experience the benefits of everything we've talked about. We have, apps for their cell phone or their tablet. We have iPhone and Android apps. We have an Apple Watch app. We have an Apple TV app. We have integrations with Amazon Echo and Google Home, as well as websites. So at the end of the day, the tenant can, once they move into a property, whether it's a short-term property and they're just using, say, an Amazon Echo in the property to turn lights on and off and adjust the thermostat while they're sitting on the couch with their family, to a long-term rental who actually has the app in the hand, say in a multifamily environment, and they're setting up access for their dog walker. So that dog walker can come into the apartment, get their dog and walk them while they're at work, or a service provider can come in and fix a leaky faucet. They're all there and they're all accessible and they're all integrate both with how the tenant wants to use them as well as integrate with how the property manager runs their properties today.
That would be a good bonus and a good way to attract tenants as well, is to say, well, you're renting a smart home. That seems like a great selling point.
Definitely, people are looking at smart home, and we're seeing smart homes, smart households, to be fair to the multifamily side also. Smart households being something that is an attractor when you list it when it's on a listing site and someone can see that a unit or a home has a smart home available or is part of the system. We see that attracting tenants. When a tenant typically walks in and sees the system, that helps reinforce that. And then what we're seeing also is we've been in business now for 4 years, and we're actually seeing smart home also be a tool that can help retention, right? At the end of the day, once people are in and they get the comfort and convenience, and also the tenants get some of the savings, right? When you're in a home with a smart thermostat, that thermostat's now helping the tenant to save some money on their utility bills every month. There's a reason they want to stay there, and there's a reason that they see that as a benefit amenity that the property manager and the asset manager provide.
So all of this is very interesting and exciting, and it's definitely the future, and the future is now apparently. But how would anyone listening go about installing one of these systems?
Great question. So let's say someone hears this podcast and wants to learn how they can potentially move ahead with the system. They could go to our website, pointcentral.com, and there's a button there that says schedule a demo. They click that button, enter their contact info. One of our sales associates will give them a call, ask them about their properties, ask them what they're looking to do, show them a demo of the system. And then if someone decides at that point that they're ready to move forward, we get them signed up, and then we go through an onboarding process. And we have a team just dedicated to onboarding. That onboarding process can fully help train someone on how to install the hardware themselves, which is pretty easy. I mean, the deadbolt replaces a standard deadbolt, the thermostat replaces a standard thermostat, and the cellular hub is about the size of a Apple TV or a DVD case. You plug it into the wall and stick it in a coat closet, and it connects. You don't have to do anything else with it. So the project management team can walk someone through both that installation and setup, as well as they have all the tools available to help walk people through how to use our system. How do you set up users? How do you set up enterprise settings, et cetera, and get them going on using the system. If someone decides they would like professional help, we do have contracts with several thousand installers nationwide that can go out and help someone install and set up this, whether it be one property or thousands, on their behalf for them, and we're able to help facilitate that. Once all the stuff's set up and running, and the property managers using the system, we have a dedicated support team based in Minneapolis that's open 6 days a week, that if the property manager ever had a question later on, they could call into this team and get the question answered. We also have a unique site just for our property managers that they can go to and find FAQs, knowledge base articles, videos, etc., all to help make sure they're able to use the system. And then we also do follow-up webinars every several months to talk about new features, to talk about new ways to do things more efficiently, et cetera. Really, at the end of the day, to help make sure our property management customers continue to use the system and see it as an ongoing benefit.
I'd also like to tell you about Joshua Schaub and his team at Icon Realty Group, a full-service real estate company in the West Michigan area. Joshua has been a guest on this show several times, and he and his team at Icon Realty Group help buyers gain an edge in this competitive market. They assist sellers in getting the best price and terms for their properties, and they work with investors to understand the numbers, neighborhoods, and market forces that will set them up for long-term success. To learn more and get a free, no-obligation consultation, contact Joshua at 616-216-2000 or visit theiconrealtygroup.com. So what kind of investment is involved in installing the system?
So the core package that we talked about at the beginning and throughout this, that costs about $600 and then has a recurring monthly charge. There's a little difference based on volume, but for someone who's managing one home, it's $20 a month, and it goes down a little bit if someone's managing several hundred or several thousand from there. That's it. There's no other incremental charges to add more services. So if someone later said, I want to add a water sensor, they have to buy the $40 piece of hardware, but that goes out and connects to our system, and they get all the benefits of that service for that monthly price they're paying. The only actually service that we offer is incremental that does charge a little bit more is the video cameras. And that's mostly for cloud storage. If someone adds up to 4 video cameras, that's an incremental $5 a month, which we feel is pretty competitive when you look at other cameras out there in the space today.
And by the way, with the video cameras, you mentioned this before, but it bears repeating. The video cameras are for public spaces, right? You can't put them in the unit so you can watch your tenants.
Yeah. So we strongly recommend to a property manager never to put a video camera inside a home. A tenant could choose to, right? And this is an opportunity where, again, a property manager typically will either embed the cost of our service just in their normal rent as a way to differentiate their property. We do have some property managers that actually charge it as an incremental fee. And again, we'll see that base package typically charged at $20 to $25 a month. And then we'll use things like video as an incremental fee for themselves. So the tenant, if they wanted to buy an internal camera, the property manager could sell it to them and say, by the way, this is an extra $10 a month for your home automation service. It's more than competitive with what that tenant would see out in the market, but then that tenant now gets the benefit of everything in their smart home still controlled on one app. So they're not out there trying to use a different app for their home camera as well as an app to control their thermostat in their home. It's all right there for them and convenient to use.
Interesting. So you can combine security cameras inside your unit or your home as part of this package.
Correct.
That seems like a really good investment. I mean, we're talking $600 up front. That basically gets you started. $20 a month. Now, if this is a property where you have to go back and forth and show it and let people in to do cleaning or repairs, just the savings on not having to go there time and time again and be there when people show up or don't show up, that right there seems like it's worth $20 a month.
Yeah, definitely. There's the operational time savings alone is great. And then again, you can think of someone showed up to do work, maybe they didn't do the quality of job you were hoping. You can log in right away and see that they entered at 10 a.m. and they left by 11. There's no way they could have done that, done the job right? So you have data there to say, hey guys, you didn't do a good job. And I can tell by the time spent also that you weren't here long enough to do a good job, which helps arm the property manager with sometimes the data they need to work with some of their vendors.
I know you're running off of cellular technology. That $20 a month includes the cell bill?
Correct. Includes the cell bill. Like I said, includes all the services outside of video cameras, includes access to all the apps, and then also includes one thing I failed to mention as part of the onboarding is we do have integrations with a lot of property management systems out there. So obviously we have property management companies today that run their PMS and then use our system separate. But for some of the PMSs where we have integrations, what they can do is do the initial setup in our system, connect it to their PMS, and then just use the PMS system to still manage work orders, manage property status, and our system will integrate with it and simply make thermostat setting changes or pass on access codes based on what's happening in that overall property management system. And those types of integrations are also included in the monthly fee.
What if you have, say, a 12-unit multifamily or even a 100-unit or more apartment building? How do the costs break out for you then?
So the cost for us tend to move at two general spots. When someone gets what we'll consider a medium-sized property manager, which is typically into a couple hundred, and then someone who's large, say, and has over 1,000. The steps aren't huge, but you'll see the hardware move down by, say, 5 to 10% in those increments, and you'll see the services move down approximately the same amount.
5 to 10% per unit?
Correct, per unit.
And then with the larger apartment building, it seems like the sensor technology, it works great for the individual unit, but when you have the mechanics of the entire building and the common area in the hallways and whatnot, how does this technology work for those larger buildings?
So the technology in the individual units still gets set up and functions the same for that to allow the individual homeowner to or household renter to function in their space. But then when there's common area also, the system will integrate that. So for example, in a multifamily space where maybe one of our door locks is put on a common area door, when a tenant moves into a household, the property manager would assign them access not only to the lock in their individual unit, but then also would be able to assign them access to the common area lock. So they'd get a code that would work in both. And again, the property manager then can see when they entered common areas versus when they entered individual units, and the consumer gets the benefit of access to all areas they need access to. So we partner with Yale today on our locks. We found that Yale makes a really good quality lock. Yale makes a residential grade product that we'll use on the individual doors, but then has a commercial grade product that's meant for common areas. So we can deploy different solutions, again, depending on the need, so that the right product and the right service is matched up to what the property manager is looking for.
So, Sean, when it comes to making the decision about whether or not this technology will be useful to a rental property owner or real estate investor, in your experience, who are the decision makers, and what is it that makes them choose installing this type of technology over other capital improvements that they might make?
Good question. Obviously, this answer scales or changes a little bit based on the scale of the property manager we're working with. But the groups we typically see involved are obviously your property management team, the ones in the individual multifamily buildings or in the region taking care of the individual homes. Asset managers are involved because they're curious how it enhances the overall asset, helps them find tenants, get more incremental revenue, et cetera. And then your IT team. IT team at a big level wants to know what, again, the security and reliability of the system, any integrations, how does this going to work with their system. Those are typically your three major groups involved. And as they're looking at projects, what we found is once we get to that stage where they're going, okay, it's you or one of two other projects that we're looking at doing, to be honest, our ROI tends to be just really attractive to them. When they look at everything and they see the experience we have in this space, being here for over 4 years and deploying with customers of all size and all verticals, and they know we can help get them through it and they can have a path to understand what that ROI is, that tends to usually work in our favor and helps us move things forward.
Do you have any specific stories or examples of the way that users have been using your product? I know you have one unique story, at least. I'd love to share it with our listeners. Yeah,
actually, since we've talked a little bit about some of the more common use cases, I'll tease out maybe two unique stories that are probably a little more interesting or diverse for the audience to listen to. One of which is short-term rental related. We had a customer who had a guest book a property, and then after the booking period came back and filed a report with the credit card company saying, well, we actually canceled, we never went. And this property manager was able to go in, look at the event history in our system, and see that the individual code they had emailed that guest was used during the booking, and it was used throughout the entire booking. So they could show that the guest was actually going in and out of the property and staying there. And using that data, was able to win the case and get paid for the rental, and was very happy about it. Another unique example was some of the recent tragedies with the hurricanes. We had some long-term property managers that had properties that once the storms had come through, obviously the property manager was usually out of town, the tenant was out of town, but they needed to get people in. They needed to get repair crews in, they needed to maybe get some emergency services in, and using our system and that cellular connection, they were able to get in and push a code to a door or unlock a code for a door for someone to get it in right then and there, versus being stranded away from the property for days or weeks and not being able to do anything there.
What about if a tenant does not pay rent? Can I lock them out?
If a tenant doesn't pay rent, you can go into the system and actually revoke an individual's access. So therefore, their code would be wiped from that lock, and they wouldn't be able to get into it.
I'm sure our listeners would have to check on the legality of that, but that's good to know that we can keep them out if we want to.
Yes. Yeah. Everything we can do is always within the local regulations and laws. But the good news is if the laws allow for it, you follow the standard process, we typically have a way to help enhance that process or be a part of it.
What is the future of all of this? I mean, where we are now, as far as technology is concerned, is really just amazing. Where are we going with all this technology? What do you see happening in the future?
So if I could bifurcate that question into two parts. On the tenant experience, this technology is there. It's now, the last numbers I saw is over 15% of households in the U.S. have home automation tech. So it's really taking hold. I think it's going to continue to grow where tenants, especially with demographic shifts of more and more millennials who like home automation tech becoming renters, this is going to continue to grow. So I think it's all about making the technology easier to use. And I think some of the things that I talked about with us, where we're one platform that works with everything they need, helps provide that convenience. But then also the voice assistants that are coming out, as those voice assistants get smarter and allow tenants to more naturally control things in the home, or even maybe for the property manager to have a unique app that works with a voice assistant to, file a work order, understand a complaint, get ahead of some of these tenant issues before they become big issues when they're just small annoyances. I think that will be some of the technological adoption on the tenant side that'll be really useful. On the property manager side, it'll really be, I think, the smarts. Again, while the smarts are helping to do some cost avoidance things, the smarts also evolve to understand behaviors and to understand other elements that can become more predictive for how a property is being used or for what a property is going to need, and helps a property manager plan for that, schedule it, and do it at the most efficient moment in time. Those will be useful tools for property managers of all sizes.
And do you see us one day moving toward a virtual property management system where you don't even need to manage your property? You just have Point Central or another type service manage it for you?
So what we see is actually people are still important. At the end of the day, you still need a person who's looking at the system and who's helping to provide the experience that your property management company wants to provide. And everyone's got a different sort of strategic goal for what that experience is based on the properties you're renting. But we definitely think a human-to-human interaction is still there. But what we do see is technology such as Point Central is being able to step in and automate or alleviate pain points for a lot of the steps that were low value add for property managers. So again, sitting there waiting to deliver keys for someone to come clean an apartment or paint the walls. So we see it really just growing as a tool, similar to the way you've seen CRM systems such as Salesforce in other parts of business grow to really help manage customer data and manage some of those interactions and making the human interactions more efficient and more productive.
And what have I not asked you yet that we should talk about?
Now, that's a tough one. We've covered a lot here. I think probably one of the biggest things is people looking through all this. Again, we're very confident in ourselves, and we'd encourage anyone to come out, have a conversation with us and look around a little bit, get comfortable with the space, understand what's out there. And, we're happy always to share references with people. We think at the end of the day, this is a technology that really is affordable and provides a great ROI and allows someone, we're structured in a way where it allows someone to come in Start simply. If you don't like us, we're month to month. We don't ask anyone to sign long-term contracts. So if you don't like us in 6 months or 3 months or a year, you can discontinue our service. The hardware uses what's called Z-Wave technology, so they could theoretically use a different hub to communicate. But we're really confident that when people get in and get to know us and understand what we've done and how we do it, that they see us as a partner that's going to be there with them and not someone just a salesperson trying to just sell them an individual piece of hardware and then move on to the next sale. So we definitely would encourage everyone to reach out, have a conversation, see who else is in the space, and hopefully that leads us to a long-term productive relationship.
And just to kind of follow off of that, when you talk about being a partner with the owners that you work with, I'm thinking about the analytics that you're able to do with the smart home technology. If an owner is seeing, hey, my electric bill is really high this month, are they able to get in touch with your company and say, what do you think is going on? Or are you able to help identify what some of these problems are and where they're coming from?
Exactly. So take energy and that new analytics service we rolled out. So now if an owner calls their property manager and says, hey, my vacation rental last month had a much higher electric bill. Can you help me understand why? The property manager can go into the system really quick and see last month's run data and actually understand where the tenant's setting temperatures and the system was just having to run for a long time to achieve it. If so, that may be indicative the system needs a tune-up or something, or maybe just happened to be a weird weather for that month and it was hotter than normal, so therefore it ran longer to achieve set points. But they're able to do that. And also the property manager is able to do things that can help sort of prevent overuse. So they can set a maximum and a minimum temperature. So again, I like to use Phoenix as an example, because in the summertime, when it's warm in Phoenix, you may have someone who's renting a property and tries to set the thermostat down to, say, 55 degrees. And anyone who's lived in Phoenix knows that that's probably going to cause a problem by your coils freezing over. So the property manager is able to set some of these thresholds to avoid that problem, which helps save money for the homeowner, also helps make the tenant not get angry because they can't set a temp that it doesn't achieve. They're able to set temperatures, see the system respond to it, and react and deliver an overall good experience. And then also there's things like the door window contact sensor. So for vacation rental properties where guests may check in, turn the AC to 72, and then open the slider and really try to experience both. A door window contact sensor can be set up on that slider and say when the slider's open for more than 5 minutes, it shuts down the air conditioner. So that, again, the guests still can experience the fresh air, but they can't do the fresh air and the air conditioning at the same time, which helps that homeowner save money.
If they're not paying for the utility bills, they don't really care what they're doing.
Exactly. So what this does, it allows you to still, someone can still come home and, have schedules or have a system that knows when they're home and still cool a place. I actually provide another example. Using vacation rental, our system, let's say a home is unoccupied all week, but the system knows the guest is going to show up on Friday. What our system will do is instead of waiting until that guest shows up to try to cool from, say, 78 to 72 at a really high speed, which is going to use more energy, the system sees a guest is going to show up within the next 24 hours, knows that the property manager wants the temperature to be 72 degrees when the guest shows up, not the 78 it is currently, and the system will start to slowly cool it to 78 over that time period. So it's done more efficiently. Again, saving the owner money, making the guest happy, and saving headaches for the property manager.
Yeah, that'd be great technology for hotels, because every time I go into a hotel, they've got the air conditioning unit full blast all day long.
Yep. Or not on at all, and you're shifting it to full blast.
Yeah, which is even worse. But yeah, really interesting. How can people find out more information?
Easiest way is to go to our website, pointcentral.com. It's pointcentral.com.
Great. And I'll make sure that's in the show notes as well. Sean, this has been a fascinating conversation. I love talking technology with you, and Point Central definitely sounds like a great product. It sounds like it's the future. The return on investment is very impressive, and the things that it can do to save you time and money are well worth it. And I also want to thank you for being our new sponsor on the show as well.
Well, Brian, thank you for the opportunity to be here with you and to chat with you and your audience. We're excited about where the technology is and what it can do for property managers. So we look forward to some ongoing conversations.
Thanks a lot for being on the show.
Thank you.
This episode was sponsored by Green Property Management, managing everything from single-family homes to apartment complexes in the West Michigan area. Find out more at greenpropertymgt.com. And Icon Realty Group, helping home buyers, sellers, and investors in the West Michigan area. Find out more at theiconrealtygroup.com.
You've been listening to the Rental Property Owner and Real Estate Investor Podcast, brought to you by the Rental Property Owner Association. You can find out more at rpoaonline.org. If you enjoyed this podcast, please go to iTunes to subscribe, rate, and review.